Hello, hello, hello. It is Friday, the 29th of May, 2026. Welcome to the show. It's more afternoon tea than morning brew. Obviously, we're a bit late getting in here. Martin Harrow, hello. We've also got Daylight M in the chat, and Russ is there too. Hey, Russ, how you doing? Thanks for all your help over the last few days, especially letting me know that the Twitch stream was still going. We've also got Diz in there, of course. We've got Andrew Ray, Sphere Lance. My mum is in there. Hi, mum. How you doing? So I hope you're all fitting well. Listen, I just if you're watching this, and usually you don't sort of join in the chat, in the morning or something because you're doing something else. Now, maybe since I don't know your lunch break or something, you might be able to hit the subscribe button and then join in with the chat. Wouldn't that be quite cool? Sorry for being a bit late getting started. I had a few things I had to do this morning. Been up since 6. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, looks like I picked the wrong week to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. But I'm still awake now, which is kind of good, I guess, in the long run. And Chris says, can we please keep the chat a safe, caring, supportive, and civil community, please? Yes, I will echo that, Chris. Can we keep the chat civil and safe and nice? Too many places on the internet, especially, on the left, they tend to fall into infighting over people's specialist thing that they're like, this is the most important thing. We've got to understand that we live in a plurality. So I can't even say that word. But yeah, you know what I mean. People have different priorities in their life. People have different life experiences. And everyone likes different things. Everyone needs different things. We're all different. And just because you like a particular thing or you hate a particular thing doesn't mean that everyone needs to. Although we should all hate Nigel Farage because he is a gobshite. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about climate change. Oh, yay! Climate change is a happy topic, isn't it? Yeah. Well, it's been not here, obviously, where it's 18 degrees and I've got my hoodie on. But I believe that in the rest of the country, it's been quite warm this week. The records aren't just sort of breaking at the moment when it comes to the heat. They're actually exploding. But the May temperature record has been absolutely obliterated, not by half a degree, not by 1 degree, but by 2 degrees. The previous May record was 32.8 degrees C. That was set over a century ago in 1922. On Monday, Kew Gardens recorded 34.8 degrees. On Tuesday this week, Kew Gardens recorded 35.1 degrees C. And this is springtime temperatures. There's been some people who've gone, oh, it's always, we have warm days, don't we? We have warm days. We had the heat wave in 1976. We had the heat wave. Yeah, not in spring. It was in the summer. The previous records weren't beaten by, a tenth of a degree. They were beaten by more than 2 degrees. That's enormous. That is absolutely enormous. It's like someone beating the 100-meter record by a second. Do you know what I mean? It's like that much of a jump. It's a scale. The scale of which these records are being broken is what the worry is. Above everything else, it's not just the fact that it's been broken, but how much it's been broken by. And this isn't a localized event. Across Europe, France broke hundreds of temperature records this week. Ireland exceeded its May record by more than 2%. Germany experienced the exceptional spring heat. So did Italy. So did Switzerland. So did Spain. Meanwhile, Delhi reached 45 degrees. 45 degrees. That is insane. In a country where so many people don't have air conditioning or the ability to cool down at all, that is off the charts. And the immediate cause of this particular heat wave this week is something called a heat dome. Apparently, it's a meteorological phenomenon where a large area of high pressure gets stuck over a region, and it just can't move. And the high pressure acts like a lid, and the hot air gets trapped underneath, and clouds struggle to form. Um, and the trapped air stays in the same place, doesn't disperse at night. So we have these really hot, sticky nights as well. Um, Now, the 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 chances of this happening is quite rare. But what climate change has done, it's loaded the dice, so it's more likely to happen. That's it. And that's why when people pick out individual events that's happened in the past and go, oh, well, this happened in 1976, oh, this happened in 1922, this happened. Yeah, it's not that it hasn't happened before, or it's never happened to this degree, but it's not that it hasn't happened before. It's not that we haven't had really, really hot days or droughts or spells of very hot weather or very cold weather. That happens. That's happened before. Yes, it's the frequency that it's happening now. I mean, it was just a few years ago that we were having like fires in. Do you remember in London we had like the wildfires and like people's houses burnt down in London, and you're like, you got to be kidding me, right? We've got we've got we've got wild. Sorry, in London. Sorry, what? I mean, we hear about forest fires in California and in Australia and stuff, but London? Are you kidding me? The question with you visiting every country, are you a member of the Explorers Club based in New York? As I just found out it today in news agencies. No, there's a British one called the Century Club for just people who have been to over 100 countries. But I don't know about the Explorers Club, so I don't want to badmouth it. But from what I know, like you've got to pay to be part of this thing, and it's more. I don't know. I don't want to say something and then people go, "Oh, you said it was crap, and now you've joined it." But I get the impression that these kind of travel clubs are quite not for people like me. Do you know what I mean? Like they're a little bit elite. They're a little bit like people who can afford to visit all these places at the high end. Turn up business class on their own or in their own private jet, whereas I'm hitchhiking on the back of a meat wagon. Long weekend holiday in Kiwi land, 11 degrees C at midnight. Dragons Marine, climate change is the ultimate form of child abuse. We know their record on that. Yeah, it is. It's ruining things for future generations. I think at one point, I think maybe yesterday or something, I was going off on one about how sort of the older generation have really screwed things up for generations coming afterwards, and how cruel and unfair that is. And occasionally you'll see someone who's sensible who says, well, I don't think it's up to me. I think we should be, it's the young people who are having to put up with this, who are going to have to fix it and whatever. And I always remember there was an episode of Q&A, which is like the Australian version of Question Time. And they had a climate change special because it was all about the fossil fuel tax that was being brought in by the then Labour government in Australia. And there was an old guy in the audience, proper gam, and he said to the young people on the panel, you don't have to worry about this tax because you won't have to pay it, or you don't have to pay it. And all I was thinking is like, mate, you're only going to be around for another couple of years, especially with that attitude. I mean, he looked quite, life and death and kernel blame, but I don't think he had long for this world. And it's like, those kids will have to pay it for the rest of their lives. Well, they wouldn't actually. It was a tax on the actual companies digging the coal out of the ground, extracting the oil, actually causing climate change. That was sort of who the tax was on. But that attitude of like, oh, I know better, kids should do what I say. And it's like, no, got to listen to people. You got to listen to the young people and say, what do you want? Do you want to live in a cooked world? No, I don't. I don't want to live on a burning planet. I don't want to go out and, I don't even have to put my toast in the toaster. I just leave it on the front doorstep for 5 minutes. Yay. Chris C, thank you very much for the £5 super chat, mate. So I checked the bank balance this morning and found out I had more than I thought. So I have a super chat for me and of course for Diz's confetti addiction. Okay, this is for you, Chris, and it's also for Diz. Here you go. 3, 2, 1, confetti! Yeah! I'll set the goal. Actually, I've stopped setting the goal because it wasn't bloody working. But I'll set it now and see if we can actually get it to work again. Don't know if anyone's putting in a complaint to YouTube to say, "Oh yeah, the goal doesn't work." But yeah, these it's these bloody toddlers. Of course, they had to fix it. Yeah, just had to shut the window. Stupid council taking the Mickey, cutting the grass. I think that's what they're supposed to do, though, isn't it? My advice to all is enjoy what you can now because it's all going to be a bit shit soon. If not climate change, then Putin. Well, I mean, I'll try and be a bit positive here because I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I never do, and I just and I know you might think I'm a little bit naive, like eternal optimist type person, but I try to keep quite grounded about most things. When I say things like America is over, well, I just mean that like the America that we knew is dead. Like whatever comes from the ashes of what Trump leaves. Trump's increased the deficit by a third. A third of the American deficit, which is like, I don't know, 37 trillion. Let's have a look. Let's see what it is now. US deficit. Um, national deficit. It's the national deficit. Blah 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 blah. The national deficit. No, national debt. Sorry, national debt, not deficit. U.S. national debt. Is that the one? Oh yeah, 37 was a little bit conservative. It's actually now 39 trillion. $39 trillion. And a third of that was accumulated when Trump was in charge. And honestly, you can just, it is just a ridiculous sum of money. So yeah, America's going to be in trouble for a long time to come. And whatever comes of it will not be as good. But look at the things that have happened as a result. Oh, look at this thing blow up. Watch this. Watch it blow up. Yeah, there you go. That cost $1 billion, didn't it? For a big explosion. Money well spent. But yeah, just look at the things that have happened because of the dickhead in America, right? I know it's awful for them, and it's awful for the people of Iran, and it's awful for the people of Gaza, etc. At the same time, though, he is driving the biggest shift towards renewables in countries that aren't America ever in the history of the world. He's also driving the UK back into the arms of the EU, which I'm not gonna cry about, So I always feel like there's a little bit of hope on the horizon, no matter what. And let's face it, when we talk about climate change and how it being the end of the world, well, it's not. The world will still be here. It's just going to be more difficult and uncomfortable for the people living on it and the animals as well. But here's the thing, like humans adapt and humans will adapt if they have to. No, in the same way that at the moment, I think they're moving Jakarta because it's just sinking. It's sinking. Part to do with climate change, partly to do with the fact that it's built over a massive aquifer, which they've drained all this water out of. So the whole thing is just going down. But yeah, if it comes to it, they'll build a big concrete wall to stop the tide coming in. It will look bloody ugly and whatever, but they'll do whatever they need to do. We'll do whatever we need to do. So all we can do at the moment is try and mitigate the effects of climate change so they're not as bad. And we are heading in that direction, to be fair. Like we are embracing solar and wind power like never before. Just because it's become the most economically viable thing to do here. But yeah, just to go back to sort of climate change and stuff. I try not to get too. I try not to get too catastrophizing about it all. I think that there's a lot of stuff on the internet that is just, for me, it's like far too far one way or the other. It's just like I kind of want everyone to chill and say, okay, well, what can we do? What can we do with the tools at our disposal? What can we do with the time we've got? And yeah, it might not be perfect. Yeah, it might not work. We don't know. But I'll tell you what's definitely not going to work, not doing anything about the status quo, you know? Yay, I'm 16 again, says Martin Harrow. Excellent, Martin. Thank you for being a member for 16 months. Welcome, welcome. You, my friend, are awesome. Trust me, Mother Nature will heal the earth, although humans might be high on our list to save. Yeah, I get that, but I mean, it would take a catastrophic event to wipe out all humans. Don't we? Don't forget, humans are extremophiles in that we can live in pretty much any habitat, from desert to the Arctic ice. You'll find human habitations. That they find life finds a way, but yeah, humans find a way. But in that process, look, we I don't want to have to move. I don't want to have to go live in another country because my government is awful, or because the Equalities and Human Rights Commission is stacked with turf. So because of climate change, I don't want to have to. I don't. I'd like to have the choice, there if I want to. If I want to move somewhere else, I'd quite like to have the choice. I used to. Someone took that away from me. I don't know why they took it away from me. Maybe they just don't like me. I don't know. Afternoon, everyone. Climate change is 100% a thing. We need to start listening to the farming communities as this impacts on our food security. Yes, absolutely. And Chris says, I remember the Great Depression was also caused by, check notes. Oh, yes, tariffs. Yeah, yeah. Chris says, I see Labour about to break their manifesto. Minister insists Labour will not apply national living wage to all over 18s before the election. Okay, is that something that was in the manifesto? Let's go over to the full fact. Let's see what's happening here. Government tracker. Okay, we've got 6 on. We've got 6 on definitely haven't been kept, and we've got 5. Well, I don't think that's changed. But we will find out. I will find out for you. Not kept. Labour will not increase tax on working people. Wealth fund, new returns, digital ID, new deal for working people in 100 days. Labour will not increase taxes. There's 2 of them are the same. I'll have a look at what that minister said, but I thought that had already come in. I thought that the living wage for everyone under 18 had already come in and people were paying it. £1.50. Is everyone over the moon? The Saracen Rugby Stadium is housing Shivet Zion to sell stolen Palestinian land to British people. They got permission or authority to do so, or assisted by our government. I'd have to look into that. £1.50. I don't know anything about it. Good news alert. In another setback for Bezos, the latest Blue Origin rocket exploded on the launch pad last night. Yeah, that was on the TV a minute ago. Graham, it's being reported in The Guardian. Okay, I will check that out. But yeah, see, this is what you can do when it's live. You can check stuff out. Are you talking about the lie from Labour, or the backtrack, the U-turn? Okay, I'm going to have to just type in. Look at wage. Minister says, okay, here we go. Minister insists Labour will not apply national living wage to. Oh, so I'm getting mixed up. Sorry, I thought you meant minimum wage, which I think they've pushed that up, haven't they? So Alan Milburn last night suggested he would like the government. To drop its commitment to pay all people over the age of 18 the national living wage. The former Labour Health Secretary was speaking after he published a major report on a number of young people that were not in education, employment or training. For the record, this is what Labour said in its manifesto. Labour will also make sure the minimum wage is a genuine living wage. We shall change the remit of the Independent Low Pay Commission so for the first time it accounts for the cost of living. Labour will also remove the discriminatory age band so all adults are entitled to the same minimum wage, delivering a pay rise of hundreds of thousands of workers across the UK. Okay, that says minimum wage, not living wage. So there's a difference there. So I don't think that's a quote from their, according to the Guardian, that's a quote from their manifesto. So no, they haven't actually U-turned on this one. The manifesto sets out that we should move the rates together over time. It doesn't set a timeline on that because it's the important role of the pay commission. And yeah, when the presenter Justin Webb put it to Bell, Torsten Bell, that people understood that as meaning by the end of the Parliament, said no, that's not what it says in our manifesto, but it's an understandable mistake. It's a long document. Okay, all right. Well, yeah. Oh, here we go. Reform UK candidate defends old social media post, declines to apologise to Vorderman and claims that she would hear 100 times worse on a building site. Wow. 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 Unbelievable. Well, that's not unbelievable, is it? Anyway, should we go? Didn't SpaceX one explode on Splashdown too? Yeah, earlier this week. So that's Bezos's and Musk's rockets. You know, they could be spending all this money on helping developing nations get out of the poverty trap, but no, they don't want to do that. They just want to blow up. They want to get massive rockets and blow them up. Hmm. Were they supposed to be relocating Tehran? Says Diz. They might have to, or people from Tehran might have to relocate because of the water shortages that they're having there. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's going to be it's not going to be a great time. Clearly, I just don't think that it's going to be like all humans dead. It's not going to be everyone living happily and singing "Kumbaya," and it's not going to be all humans dead. Probably going to be somewhere in between. But we don't. It doesn't need to happen. That's the worst thing. The only reason why this is happening because of the greed of the oil industry, the greed of the filthy fossil fuel entrepreneurs who just want more money, even though they've got more money than you and I could spend in our lifetimes, in several thousand lifetimes. Well, it's not enough. Never enough. It's never enough. But you know the heat domes like we've just had. Occurs naturally. I mean, it's always happened, but the weather patterns may be natural, but the fact that they're happening so frequently is absolutely not. We talk about once in a century storms, once in a century heat waves, and it's not once in a century anymore. It's not even once a decade. And the scientists keep talking about background warming. Imagine a bathtub that's filling with water. All that's happening when we decrease emissions is we just the bathtub is still filling up, just not as fast. And you know the only way we can solve this situation is by stopping putting any more energy into the mix. We've put the same equivalent amount of energy as a atomic bomb, a Hiroshima sized, as in the bomb that went off on Hiroshima, nuclear bomb going off once a second, every second of every minute, of every hour, of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year, of every decade, of every century since the signing of the Magna Carta in 1215. That's how much extra energy we've put into the system just in the last 100 or so years. And you know, this is happening in a world. This heat wave is happening in a world that is already between 1.3 to 1.4 degrees C warmer overall than it was in the Industrial Revolution, and that's making there's more energy in the system. The more energy sloshing about, the more extreme weather events will happen. It makes every drought worse. It makes the forest fires worse. It makes the flooding worse. It makes the freezing temperatures worse. Especially if the what we call the what does laymen such as myself calls the Gulf Stream. Don't at me. I know it's called the AMOC, but the Gulf Stream sputtering out. Um, in which case we're going to discover just how cold it can get in this country, with temperatures set to plunge to -40 in parts of Scotland. And here's a statistic that should scare everyone. According to a research body based in Europe, Europe is warming at roughly 0.56 degrees per decade. That's twice the global average. So Europe is the fastest warming continent on Earth. People assume that climate change will hit tropical countries hardest, but Europe is having this extreme heat, and a place that's already a desert, or like the Sahel, like the near desert, or a place that's already tropical, they have to deal with high temperatures all year round, or particularly one time a year. So they build appropriate things in the infrastructure to deal with that. So, for instance, in Bocas del Toro, in Panama, we know we get 3.5 meters of rain a year. So we make sure there's loads of runoff. We make sure it's easy for the rain to run off without causing flooding. It's built that way, but we don't have flood channels here in the UK. The flood channels you see in LA and Terminator, when the truck comes up, that they're in one of the runoffs, aren't they? For when they have like loads and loads of rain all at once. It happens now and again in California. So they have these flood drains, right? We don't have them. So what happens when we get too much water here? We get flooded. And also, because our sewage is not a separate system in this country, all things being equal, we should have 2 outlets to every house. Not all things being equal. In an ideal world, you'd have 2 drains going out your house, right? You have one for your grey water, which is your baths and your showers and you're washing your dishes and you're washing your clothes and stuff. And that's fine. That can run out to the same outlet as the gutters in the road, the drains in the road, right? Go out the same way. It doesn't really matter. It's not great, but as long as we're using stuff that's environmentally friendly and we're not flushing microplastics down the drain. And then you've got brown water, which is exactly what it sounds like. The shit out your toilet. That should be in a separate system. But at the moment, they're not. It's all in together in most places in the UK. So when there's too much rain, there's shit in the water that's spilling out from our gutters. When the drains are simply full, they're just taken to capacity. They can't get any more. They can't get any bigger. Well, it's not just rainwater in there, is it? It's also all of our poos and wees. And this is where our infrastructure is playing against us. Another thing is air conditioning. We don't have air conditioning in this country because why bother? We only have a few warm days a year. Why have air conditioning? And that's a valid argument to make at the moment, but going forward, it's getting more and more difficult for people to live in these homes where when it's hot, you just die. I think of like the poor bastards who live in is it the Barbican, South Bank in London? Those horrible concrete blocks that they love. There's a certain type of person who sort of gets a little bit of a thrill, a little bit of a buzz from seeing these disgusting concrete blocks that look like nuclear bunkers or Nazi submarine stations. That's not the right word. Some submarine depots. And I've been in the flats in the Barbican. I've seen what they're like. They have as with all grand designs, they have one wall that is just glass. It's just glass, and then having that glass on a hot day and the sun's beating down on it. Fine, close the curtains. They're not going to do anything because that glass is going to warm up to such a ridiculous temperature. It's going to be like being in an oven in that room. And I know I've been in one of those flats when it has been really hot, and it's horrific. And it doesn't matter how many windows you open; it's not going to make any difference. You're gonna bake if you stay in there. Um, and so yeah, there's a lot of structural problems with it getting a lot hotter here. We're just not prepped for it. You've got loads of houses that have been built on flood zones because we had this stupid daffy idea back in the day that we had to not build in certain places. And like, I'm all for protecting the green belt if it's actually green. If it's a farmer's field and they're actually making farm stuff from it, great, food, whatever. Leave it. Yeah, fine. But saying, oh no, we can't build out further than this, and therefore we absolutely intensify the amount of concrete and tarmac in a small area. Well, what do you think that does, right? As far as flooding's concerned, right? First of all, you're building on floodland because you're not allowed to build on the good stuff because that's been designated green belt. But also, you're also covering the ground, the soil. You're absolutely covering it in impermeable substances like concrete and tarmac. And so the water can't just be absorbed by the soil. And we saw this in Spain, actually, a phenomenon where they had big floods there a couple of years ago. And the reason why the floods were so bad is because it had been so dry for so long. The soil had just dried to a point where it was more like concrete than soil when the rains came down. So the rain just washed over the top of it, causing those massive floods. Now there's some things we can do about this, ironically enough. One of them is solar panels. So you can put loads of solar panels in the field, right? And you can still have grass under the solar panels. They'll be tilted, they'll be up a bit high so some light can get in. You can also have lambs in that field. It's fine. They can just walk around the solar panels. And then there's a bit of shade. And there's a bit of and the grass and the ground doesn't get so parched when we have these really high bits of temperature. So again, like with a lot of things, when you do something that helps in some way, like putting solar panels on a bit of land, helps with making electricity, but there are also other things that it helps with as well. And I'd much rather have a field full of solar panels that I know are doing some good than a massive, massive bloody tarmacked car park on the edge of town for all the cars to park on. That they completely waste the space. They don't build any solar panels so you can park under the solar panels, which would make so much sense to me. They don't do that, and they're like, oh, we'll leave it to these fields. I mean, and then you've got the impermeable bloody the ground, the water can't be absorbed by the ground, and we're going to get more and more flooding. We've got people now who are not able to get house insurance because they live in a floodplain. David Faulkner, thank you very much for the 38 Hong Kong dollars. It's very nice of you. Thank you. Record-breaking average temperatures for the month of May. 38 degrees C here in Hong Kong and Canton province. My aircon units are struggling to cope with the heat. Yeah. Yeah, David, that's the way it's going, isn't it? The gammon are kicking off over the CPS decision not to retry the individuals involved on the Manchester airport attack on the police. UK households are designed to retain heat, which is good for cooler climates, but not this heat. This house in particular was expressly designed to be cold as hell, because I think it was the shop. I think it was the village shop at a local shop for local people back in the day, and obviously they didn't have refrigeration then, so they've purposely made it so that the south facing walls, like this one here, doesn't have too much in the way of windows and things. And oh my god, like like the Victorians like to over engineer stuff. Yeah, I had to drill a hole through one of these walls, right? This south facing walls last year, and my mate who's the electrician, I was putting in what's it called? A fan, an air fan thing, and This is a room that has the washing machine in and the dryer in, and we were getting a problem with damp and stuff. So we were like, okay, we need an extractor fan. That's the term, extractor fan. And honestly, it took me about 2 hours to drill through. My mate, who's an electrician, he said, listen, I can charge you 250 quid and drill through the hole myself, or I'll give you me drill. You drill through the hole. So you got this like um, baked bean can size bit on the end of your drill, and you drill through. And he said, he showed me how to use it, and he said, listen, if you use that right, I'll only charge 100 quid just to wire up the fan. I'll let you keep the rest of the money because you drilled the hole, which is the thing that's going to take ages. And I'm like, all right then. So I just start like, and it took me like, I think I had to do it because the drill gets really hot as well. So you can't do it all in one. I think I did it in 3 sessions, and all in all, it must have been about 3 hours to drill through. That's how thick the walls are, because the Victorians were like, yeah, we're going to over-engineer this place to shit. But yeah, which is good on a day like today. Like I say, I'm wearing my hoodie. I'm not being all like, on I hard wear me hoodie in this heat. It is literally 19 degrees, as you can see on there. It's but in the winter, oh my God. Like, even that, just as close as a month ago, I was so cold. I couldn't work. I can't, because when your fingers are like really freezing, you can't even type and stuff. I was finding it really, really difficult to even concentrate because it was so cold. And that was like the beginning of May. But obviously, the way that this place was built, well, that's the way we're going to have to build things in the future, I suppose, I guess. We're going to have really bloody... I don't think you need to have walls as thick as this, but maybe walls with like triple cavities and stuff that are a lot thicker. And we are going to have to start using more air conditioning, which is a shame because it means we're going to be using more electricity. But then again, that electricity is being provided by the solar panels on your roof, then I suppose it all works out in the wash. Although you do know that like air conditioning units use a particularly bad, what was it? I forgot what his name is. It uses a particular gas that is really bad as far as climate change is concerned. It causes more climate change. A molecule of whatever they put it into. I'm sure someone will tell me in the chat. Whatever gas is in air conditioning units, it's like 3 times worse than a molecule of that is 3 times worse than the environment, or heating of the earth, than a molecule of CO2. I watched 2073 last night and cried. We need to stop the rich. Yeah, Shropshire. Yeah, I agree. It's not the most cheerful of movies, that is it? Very very prophetic though, especially with the Palantir adverts floating in the sky. Yurosh, the only natural way to deal with climate heat is to build your house on as much ground as you can and plant trees. Cities are all concrete. They are a giant heat accumulator. Yeah, trees, and more trees. Just get them. They're just everywhere. Just plant them. I mean, they're again, knock-on effect. So, okay, what do trees do? Well, they provide shade. Yeah, they don't just provide shade, though. They also swallow CO2, especially when they're growing. They also provide a habitat for animals to live in, which is great because we need a rich and varied ecosystem involving lots of different animals in order to pay for things up the food chain. And they look nice, apart from hawthorns, they can piss off. But the other trees, sorry, I've got a real beef against hawthorns. Up till the hawthorn in our back garden that just wouldn't die. I've never hated the tree. I've always, thought, oh, that's interesting. That's nice. Oh, but never like, oh my God, I hate this tree. This tree must die. Hawthorns, though, they're really, really, really dense, so they're hard to cut through. And also, you grab hold of it to like cut off a branch, and then you realise they're called hawthorns because of the thorns on them, which are very, very, very sharp. The old homes built by shipwrights are pretty interesting. Yeah, I thought they found a less harmful replacement for Freon now. Yeah. See, Dizzy Dizzle, I dug out 3 hawthorns How do you feel about hawthorns now? See, Dizzy Dizzle, tell me your opinion on hawthorns as a tree. Give me anything else. Um, personated confession. I'm sitting under a blanket this very moment. Thin blanket, but still a blanket. Well, I mean, that's when I'm staying on the island, I always have a sheet over me when I go to bed, even though it's like 28 degrees. I always have a sheet over me because I don't know. It's just this thing. It's like inbuilt. Like I can't go to sleep unless I've got a sheet over me or something over me. Um, but yeah, if they have found a less harmful replacement for free on that, that's good. I suggest reading The Ministry for the Future by Kim Stanley Robinson. You won't be sleeping for a while. Whoa, you wash. Don't give me nightmares. The Hidden Light. Hey, better than living on the top like me. As soon as it gets hot, like my whole flat just turns into an oven. Lol. Yeah, yeah. And that's another problem with design, isn't it? That you have. I don't think many of the people who design flats and stuff, especially in inner city flats and things like that, social housing. I don't think the people who design social housing necessarily live in social housing themselves. In the same way, I don't think the people who designed Android Auto for your car actually ever, drove a car. I just don't think they did. We were talking today about hearing aids, and Kat doesn't think that the people who design hearing aids actually need hearing aids. One of the things she was talking about is it's like she had some rechargeable hearing aids, and they're a bloody nightmare because you think, oh, you just recharge it, but if you because up to that point she'll have the ones with the little tiny little button batteries in. But with the button batteries, if your battery starts going low, you can swap it out straight away. But if your batteries start going low when they're rechargeable, well, you've got to plug them in. And while they're plugged in, you can't hear anything. So when Kat was away, like, with work or whatever, she's staying on her own. Or if I had gone away, she'd always sleep with one hearing aid in just in case, so she would, if there was a loud noise, she would wake up. But you can't do that with the rechargeable ones. What's better is what they have with the cochlear implants, for instance, where you're given like 3 batteries and they're rechargeable batteries, and you take them out and then you can put that on charge, and you can put another one that's been charged up straight into the device, so you can actually hear straight away, and obviously it can be 24/7 if you need it to be. Yeah, it just obviously the people who said, oh, do you know what, you go to bed, you just take off your hearing aids, you just put them on the side, and what if you wake up in the morning and that horrible thing happens that sometimes happens with your mobile phone, especially when you're traveling, that they weren't actually charging, because you plugged it in, right, and it came up with charging, and you went, oh, that'll do, and you put your phone down, and then you go to sleep, and then you realize actually it was just charging for the first couple of seconds, and then it stopped, and so you get your phone to like 7%, and you're like, oh, well, imagine that, but it's your ability to hear for the day. So yeah, I often feel like a lot of the people who are charged with designing things in our lives aren't necessarily the best people to design those things. Or if you are going to design those things, how about you listen to the people who need them? How about you listen to the actual stakeholders who will be using that device or using that, whether it's a hearing aid or whether it's Android Auto, or whether it's social housing or whatever, people who are going to be using it from day to day. I genuinely don't think they're consulted. SG, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. It's very kind of you. Hope you recovered okay, Graham, and out your tongue has healed. Tongues are the fastest healing parts of the body. Trump rolled back Biden era regulations regarding HFCs, a super pollutant more potent than CO2. Thanks very much for the super chat. And yes, it was HFCs, mate. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, HFCs. They're the one. That's the chemical or gas or whatever inside air conditioning units. That's really, really bad for the environment. But these roll back stuff on asbestos. The minimum amount of asbestos they're allowed to put in baby powder in America has been rolled back. Jesus. Anyway, so yeah, if someone like me who's been born in 1979 has lived through 4.5 decades of half a degree of warming, So like in per decade, do you know what I mean? That means like that's about 2.5 degrees of warming in Europe. Not globally, but just in Europe, just in my lifetime. I'm not that old. And this is this is this is really, really worrying, just the amount that it has spiked up. And it's there's a Simpsons meme where someone says, this is the highest, longest, heaviest, hottest, coldest thing so far. And then it's got Homer Simpson saying to Bart, no, it's the hottest summer yet, until the next one. Which is how it is at the moment. The trend is going only one way. And the 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 Britain that we grew up in, a lot of us grew up in, just no longer exists. Summer temperatures above 30 degrees were rare, and now we're seeing them happen in spring, not even summer. And air conditioning is something that Americans had, or people living in Hong Kong, but not we didn't need them. We had snowy winters, that more commonly, but before 1990, the all-time UK temperature record was 36.7 degrees, and that record stood for decades, and that record today stands at 40.3 degrees. 40, and scientists are warning that 40 degrees C is just going to become more and more common as time goes on. And the July in 2022, that was when we had those fires down in London, and temperatures exceeded 40 degrees. And when I say we're not ready for it, I was thinking, talking about air conditioning units and stuff, but you've also got things like railway lines buckling. So when railway lines are made somewhere in Dubai where it's dead hot and it's not uncommon to have days over 50 degrees C, the lines are made in such a way that they won't buckle when they get that hot. We don't have that here. We're still running on lines some of them were built in the Victorian age. I know that the rails get replaced now and again, but I mean the reality is they're not built to survive temperatures this hot. And I suppose they can get away with it a little bit in Dubai, because although it does get very hot, they have a range of temperatures that those rails can go to. Like those rails should never really have to deal with freezing temperatures in Dubai, because it doesn't really freeze there. And it can get cold in the winter, but snow in Dubai will be a very, very rare event. Whereas the way it's going for us, we could have rails and roads, the way our roads melt when it's really hot, because the tarmac that we use isn't the same as the tarmac that they use across the Sahara Desert, because we don't think that we're going to have to deal with that kind of high temperature. But when we're having to build things out of materials that can cope with 50 degrees, I mean, and also the fact, when we say how hot it is, obviously the rails can get even hotter than that, because they retain the heat, don't they? But let's say the band of temperatures, operable temperatures for our railways is -10 to plus, let's say, 35, right? That's just a range of 45 degrees, yeah? What happens when we start having these crazy winters, when we're looking at -40? We have these crazy summers where we're looking at 50 plus degrees heat. The range that the materials that we use to build our infrastructure have to deal with is going to be insane. Someone just whizzed around the corner way too fast. And so you've got two things going on at once there. We're going to have to replace a lot of stuff. What if every single rail line in the UK needs replacing? What if every single road in the UK needs resurfacing with more expensive stuff, because we need stuff that can cope with these extreme ends of the weather, with extreme ends of temperature? Martin says Liverpool warehouses that are now apartments were designed to be cool to preserve food. Now the residents complain they can't get warm in winter. Well, it's funny that, Martin, you mentioned that, because I used to do some work with River Media in Liverpool back when I was a job and like film creator, what do you call it, video maker, and they had an office in what's it called? The Not the tobacco, not the tea. Oh, it's gonna maybe it wasn't the tea place. Maybe it was the tea factory. Yes, the tea factory on Wood Street. You know, the one just on the just coming up to Slater Street. Got the tea factory, and that's an old warehouse that's been adapted, and it was. I had a couple of friends who lived in the same building, and it was also used for commercial use as well for River Media. And what they had done there is they'd left the exterior, they left the facade, and essentially I think they had just gutted it. You know, like what they've done um, with Battersea Power Station, they just sort of kept the outside of it and then built a new building inside it. And it meant that the windows would not open and there'll be windows, and then you'd look through the window and you'd see the original window of the warehouse, yeah, and that'll be like a foot away because you're a little bit back because you're in this box within, this old shell of a building to keep the facade. And yeah, you couldn't open the windows, and in summer when it was dead hot, poor buggers having to do like a video editing, sitting there going, sweating cobs with the little desk fans on them, and they couldn't open the windows because the air conditioning units failed because everyone was plugging in the air conditioning because it was so hot, overloaded. And when you're completely reliant on air conditioning and it goes down, you're really stuffed. That's why I'm sitting there going, why don't they just make it so you could open the windows? I mean, just like a breeze through the building would have made so much difference. But yeah, I guess it's just the way they build stuff, design stuff. Good point, Greg. Kelp forests are great for carbon capture and the ecosystem. Ecosystem. The ecosystem is the system that allows like Putin and Trump and Farage to operate in it. They operate within the ecosystem. I hear that about having to redo our roads and rails, etc. I think how many decades and millions HS2 has taken. Our track record of infrastructure is dire. If government had something to do, had to do something fast. Nope. Yeah, I agree. I agree, Calvel. Um, yeah, the whole thing with HS2 really upsets me because I feel like it was set up to fail. I mean, it might just be me being a bit paranoid here, but like, it clearly wasn't going to work. I don't know, hindsight's 2020, whatever. But just the way that they plan to do it, and it's no one can still give me a good answer of why they just didn't bring back the central main line. Everything they said. So just in case you don't know, there used to be three main lines from the north to the south of Britain, right? There was the West Coast main line, which goes from Carlisle down between Manchester and Liverpool, all the way down to through Crewe, then to Birmingham, and then to London. And then there's the East Coast main line that comes down from Edinburgh and goes to Newcastle, Durham, obviously York, Leeds, then down through like Doncaster and Peterborough, and then down to London, right? And then there was the Central main line that went from Manchester under the Pennines, through the Woodhead tunnels to Sheffield, and then down to London from Sheffield, right? So you had three different lines, right? And they shut down the Central main line. So the question I always had is like, why couldn't you just put new lines on the Central main line? It was built as a graded train line, as in it was there was nothing, there were no level crossings. It was all either above the rest of everything or down in below everything. So they used embankments, bridges, tunnels, and all that kind of stuff. It's all built. It's all done. The Woodhead tunnels are still there, right? And this when I say why couldn't they just use them? So because they're not straight enough. They couldn't use the high speed trains on them. And I'm just like, so what? So what? The train can only go at 125 miles an hour. It's fast enough for me. It should be fast enough for anyone. We don't live in that big a country. It's not like we've got to get 1,000 miles. By the time a lot of these high-speed trains get up to speed, they've got to stop again. they've got to slow down because they've got to stop at the next station. So the speed thing, okay, well, what else? Oh, well, a lot of that line's been built on now. I'm like, okay, but you do realize that carving a whole new line across the country, you're going to be going through a lot more people's private property than putting back the line that used to be there. I just don't. To me, it's just absolute bloody nonsense that they spent all this money to do that when there's things they could have done up here in the north to make things better for us to get around. And they just chose, no, we're not even going to look at that because we won't be able to, the trains won't be able to go fast enough. Because obviously with the high-speed trains, they've got to be really, really straight, really, really flat. They can't go up too much, can't go down too much, can't go to the left, can't go to the right too much. Because the train will fall off because they're going so fast. So just, well, I mean, high-speed rail makes sense in somewhere like China, where there's a lot of farmland to go through, and you can just drive a straight line through the, think about the line that comes down from Lhasa, the capital of Tibet, down to Beijing. It's almost a straight line, pretty much, because it doesn't have to go round anything. The thing is, in the UK, you can't walk 5 minutes without seeing another human being because there's just people everywhere. There's stuff going on everywhere. In the middle of China, on the vast Tibetan steppes, there's no one there. You might run into a goat or something. I don't know. I ran out of characters, but if they had to remake Critical Roads and Rails Fast suddenly in an emergency situation, it would get bogged down in government bullshit. Chris C, the problem with HS2 is it started from London, which means NIMBY's kicked off and forced it underground. Should have started from the north first. Yeah, and they should have just done it in piecemeal instead of going, oh, it's a big grand project, we're going to do it all. Did you get the Guinness World Record as slipstreamer? Well, it's funny you should ask that. So yesterday I woke up at 8 o'clock and I did my morning show. And then I finished my morning show. I tidied up in here. Made it so that the house wasn't a complete tip for when Kat got back because she went out. She had to go to London for the day. And then I promptly fell asleep. Woke up at 6:30 yesterday evening. And Kat got back from London at 7:30, so cooked dinner, and then we went to bed, and I fell asleep, and then I had to get up this morning at 6 because we had an appointment, and I've just got back from that. stopped into the Lidl on the way home and got myself some more milk so I could make myself a coffee, and started this. So now it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I've not had a chance to send my information to Guinness yet, because I've got to sit here. I've got to go through all the times that I wrote down when I went for a piss, or when I went and got something to eat or something. So I've got to go through that. I've got to make a spreadsheet, yay, and I've got to catalogue all the different formats that I recorded it on. Hopefully, I don't know if I can still get to my TikTok that I did, but I definitely did Twitch and obviously on YouTube. YouTube would be the main thing. So I've got to send that all off to them. And I'll tell you now, I'm not going to know probably for a while. I don't know, because I've also got connections there now since I did the chat, the podcast with them, which went live on Monday. But even so, like last time they checked a record for me, which was for this one. It took a year. To be fair, for that record, they had to go to see every country in the world without flying in 4 years and one month. That's that record. I've got a copy of it here if you want. This is the other copy. So it's fastest time to visit all countries by public surface transport, achieved by Graham Hughes. It's 4 years and 31 days. Right, that one is it took a long time because they had to go through 4 passports worth of stamps. They had to go through over 10,000 photographs. They had to go through over 500 hours of film footage. They had to go through over 1 million data points that I had recorded on my journey using my little Sony GPS tracker that I had on me. So I understand why it took him a while to give me that one. But then again, when I submitted my evidence for my Eurodyssey expedition that I did 10 years ago, or no, 9 years ago, they were quite fast getting back to me on that one, just because they said, "Oh no, Graham, we don't regard um, um, Cyprus and Turkey as countries in Europe." But yeah, we'll try and redo that record at some point to every country in Europe, without flying in the least amount of time. But I do think that I am going to have to wait until things settle down in Ukraine, i.e., I don't have a problem getting into Ukraine. I know that I've been to Ukraine a few times since the war started, but like I will have a problem getting into Russia, I think, at the moment. So obviously, that needs to settle down before I try it again. But that's one of the other records that I'd like to get. I'd like to get. So, in answer to your question, it might take a week for them to go through my stuff and go, "Yeah, you did it. Go and give them the record," or it might take a year or something in between. I don't know. So it could be a while before I find out if they're actually going to give me the record for it. But there's another thing of like, I wanted to know it could be done. And for those of you who were still up with me on Wednesday night, Thursday morning at like 2 in the morning, you'll know that I was saying, well, I'm not actually that tired, and I wasn't. Like seriously, I tidied up. I think I set me tea's made to make me a coffee in the morning. I had a shower because I was like I needed a shower. So it wasn't like I fell asleep at the desk, but I like the fact that I'd still had a bit more. I had a bit more fuel in the tank, so I probably could have kept going. So at least I know that. And also, I made a few mistakes doing it this week. Obviously, I had a cold, which wasn't great. So I was blowing my nose for the first sort of 24, 48 hours of the thing. That's settled down now, thankfully. But also, I didn't really do any publicity for it. And that was because I only found out that the Guinness World Records podcast was going out on Monday. Last Monday, I only found out a few days before, and I was like, "Oh well, I'll do it this week. Then that'll be a good time to do it." But if I'd had a bit more time, I would have been able to do a bit more publicity and stuff like that for it. So yeah, and also like the stuff that I ate, like I had loads of biscuits. I had all these biscuits down on the desk here in front of me, and I hardly touched them because I couldn't eat them until talk. What I did have was pistachio nuts. I got through a whole bag of pistachio nuts, and they were great because I just pop them in my mouth and keep talking. So I think I was going to do it again. I'd have some tropical mix. I'd have some raisins. I'd have some, and also like I drank some Coca-Cola in some bits because I was like, oh, I want something refreshing that isn't necessarily water. It's got a bit of caffeine in, yay. But Coca-Cola was awful because I had a sore throat anyway from talking so much, and it made me sore throat so much worse. So I think in the future, if I ever, did it again, to try and, beat the record or whatever, I'd definitely have yogurt drinks. I think yogurt drinks for doing marathon things. What I just did, sorry, the marathon, talky thing, podcast, whatever you call it, live stream. That's it. For doing marathon live streams and for eating really, really, really hot curries. For either of those things, a yogurt drink is some lassie. Get yourself some lassie. But yes, I need to clean my country before you can come over. A lot of us are working on it, says Drakens Marine. Same SG. My studio project was so satisfying. To make up for not having that, I filled all worksheets on 2 Excel docs. With graphs and my amusement, says Martin Harrow. Viper Scott says, hi all in chat. Hi Graham, you top bloke. Well done on your epic solo live stream, bravo. Oh, thank you, Alistair. Chris C says, anyone noticed that councils are just constantly filling potholes with that JCB machine? Just strip the road and resurface it. Oh, yeah. I don't know. Martin says Japan's bullet trains go too fast for the size of the country. Do you know what I find really frustrating is that there's technology that works now that we can use when it comes to fighting climate change. We can have just normal trains that go at 250 miles an hour. They're just a normal train. They're not maglev. They're not a monorail. They're not fueled by hydrogen fuel cells. They're not like they don't rely on nuclear fusion in order to make the power go. And you're like, why are we? To me, there's a type of um there's a type of evil that big companies who want to keep polluting, so like the oil companies and stuff, keep perpetuating, and it's this desire that they keep capitalizing on this innate desire that us humans have for like something to come along and cure all our problems. The ease that there's a part of us that just wants to take the easy route, and it's very seductive. This idea that, oh no, in 10 years time we'll have this battery technology, or in 10 years time we'll have nuclear fusion, or in that 10 years time we'll have this amazing new hydrogen fuel cell thing that's going to work amazingly. And I'm like sitting here going, but we've got stuff now that works. And yeah, it's not perfect, but can we spend this money on development, on making the stuff that we know that work even better? Like, maglev is dead in the water. Anyone who comes up to me and starts talking about maglev, I just think of the shitty maglev at New Birmingham International. Has anyone been on the maglev in Birmingham International? Yeah, it runs on rubber tires. It's on rubber tires now because the maglev thing was shit, and it's always going to be shit. It'll never not be shit. You can't get up to a certain speed on it because of vibrations that are caused by the oscillation of the electricity going into the magnets or whatever it is. There's always like these technical problems to fix. But more than that, you've got one track. If one of your little maglev pods goes tits up, you can't just just have some points where you can go from one track to another. And also, it has to be a closed system. So if you did a maglev from Liverpool to Manchester, right, you couldn't get on that train to Leeds like you could on a normal train, because when you get to Manchester, it's got no more maglev track to go. But if you're on a standard train on a high speed rail, it's the same tracks. They might be a bit more bendy, so you can't go as fast, but they're the same tracks. So you get to Manchester Piccadilly, and then you can just get on the slow tracks, but the same train. You don't need a completely different operating vehicle. And this is why every country in the world that tries maglev looks at it and goes, "Oh, this is amazing! And you get these dickhead politicians, and you get the monorail sales guy comes along and goes, "Yeah, I got to have this amazing system," and it's bullshit. The reason why they want to build monorails, the reason why they want to build maglevs and shit like that, is so their one company has the absolute monopoly on that line forever. And there's a maglev that goes from Beijing to Shanghai, and it's shite. It's all right, I suppose. But they would have been better just building out just a normal high speed line. And I don't think that China's I might be wrong on this, and I'm sure someone will correct me. But David might David might have words. David might say, but actually, Graham. But I can't see China investing in much more maglev because of the inherent problems with it. But anywhere else, they just don't want you to run other people's trains on their tracks, or for you to take their train that they give you, or pod, or whatever they want to call it, and then once it gets to its terminus, be able to continue on the journey to Leeds or to Newcastle on the old train lines. It wants complete and utter monopoly on that service and all the parts and all the servicing and all the work equipment that needs to go onto it. And it's just, I don't know, it just feels really frustrating to me, where we're putting a lot of time and effort. And I don't have a problem with R&D. I don't have a problem with people putting in, the hours to look at this stuff and come up with new solutions. But there's another part of me that thinks, guys, we don't have that much time. Why are you prattling around on stuff that we don't know whether it works or not? Or maybe in 10 years' time. I've been told about hydrogen saving the world all my fucking life. I heard that. I heard about that first in the 1980s on Tomorrow's World. Hydrogen is the future. And I've heard it every year of my life since. What's that, 37 years, maybe, since I first heard about it? It's going to come, 10 years away, Graham. You're 10 years. We're all going to be filling our cars up with a cup of water and then we'll be driving. Get that power of the sun. I'm like, okay, cool. When I was a kid, I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that. And now I've got older and just got dead cynical about it. But as far as doing something about climate change now, we've got stuff that works. All we're lacking is political will. And you'll notice that the monorail salesman out there, like Elon Musk, he said, "Oh no, don't do this high-speed rail in America, in between LA and San Francisco. No, don't do that. What you want to do, right? Have a hyperloop, which is essentially one of those vacuum tubes that they used to have in old 1930s buildings, or if you've ever played the game Grim Fandango, it's one of the it's a big part of that game. You've got to put the expanding foam into the tube. But one terrorist attack, as Adam Something is very good on. If you follow Adam Something's YouTube channel, he's good at ripping these things apart. He's like, one terrorist attack in the tube halfway from New York to LA. And that's it. The tube, it's because you'd have a catastrophic loss of air, and all the pods would stop. And it's not like they could just all the pods that are waiting can't just go onto the other train line and then go around the obstacle like they can on the train lines that we have in the UK. I mean, it happens all the time. Trains break down in the UK. And it's a pain in the arse. New train might be a little bit delayed, but only a little bit delayed. They don't have to shut down the whole thing forever. Because generally speaking, they can just stop the trains coming the other way for a little bit. All our trains stack up and go our way. And we just go on the other train track. So there's always an up and a down, pretty much. We just go on the other train track and then rejoin our train track on the other end. Whatever happened to Tomorrow's World? It went the same way as Equinox and World in Action and Horizon and loads of other great shows that used to be on TV, but they decided to get rid of and replace with Married at First Sight and other god-awful shows like that. You're wrong. Japan has a line. Tom Scott did a video on it. Japan has a line. Japan has a they're developing. I think they've developed actually a high speed maglev train. I just think it's going to be shit. I just think it's going to be shit. Saline batteries are coming into mass production though, so maybe some tech is probably going to make a difference. Yeah, but it's working on it. It's not reinventing anything. Do you know what I mean? It's not like something that we've been chipping away at for years and not getting anywhere, like hydrogen. It's actually something where we're taking a technology that already exists, like lithium-ion batteries, and finding new ways of making them even better. Just reversed ionized plasma through the emergency power circuits and deploy it via the deflector grid. Works every time on Star Trek. Or you could just send out a tachyon field. That usually works. Hope we're all well today. I'm in a lovely sunny mood. Spent my morning modding a game and listening to Blondie. That's a good way to spend your morning. Over engineering when just good enough would be better. Well, at the moment, our backs are against the wall, and we need to use everything at our disposal to do something now, not in 10 years' time, but now. And new technology will come online. I'm sure it will. But with the tools we got now, we can make a hell of a difference to how we're currently living. I don't know why the government isn't giving massive subsidies to everyone to put solar panels on the roofs. There's no one I know who wouldn't do it if they were given subsidies to do it. The only reason people don't do it is because it's a huge outlay. £6,000. No, who's got £6,000 just lying away in this day, lying around in this day and age? But yeah, matter and antimatter reactors when Star Trek references. Chris says the UK railway didn't used to be one gauge. Several areas use wide gauge. Yeah, the GWR was wide gauge, wasn't it? That was Isambard Kingdom Brunel's line, but they changed that. And the narrow gauge in Wales was because that was just a sensible way of getting big train tracks up mountains and things. The train going up Snowdon or Yulwitfer, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, is narrow gauge, isn't it? I think. Is that right? Someone correct me on that. But yeah, yeah. Nuclear fusion needs three things to work: extreme temperature, extreme pressures, and a confinement time. Stars can do that easily as they have gravity on their side. However, we don't. Yeah. That sun makes it all look easy. Makes it all look easy. Anyway, so the 2022. I'll mention this. This is the first Britain's first 40-degree heat wave where temperatures exceeded 40 degrees C. Thousands of excess deaths occurred as a result, and this is the thing: a lot of people who are vulnerable. There's no way of cooling down. Once the temperature rises above the temperature of your body, 37 degrees, 37 point whatever degrees, it can be very, very hard for humans to cool down, and that especially if they are elderly or they've got some underlying health issues, and people die. People straight up die, and also we think about the infrastructure failing, hospitals coming under pressure, the railways buckling, the roads melting, the wildfires that broke out, the power systems coming under strain, and the heat kills. As simple as that. Dogs die in hot cars. Yeah, humans die in hot planets. Um, and heat is one of the deadliest weather hazards on Earth. And Britain is built for cold. Our housing stock was designed for a cool, temperate climate. We the many homes now, especially ones that have been built to keep the heat in winter, newer homes are just becoming ovens in this kind of temperature. Particularly flats, loft conversions, new build developments, south-facing properties. And the Climate Change Committee recently warned that 90% of UK homes could overheat during future extreme heat waves. Again, having a big thick old wall on our south side. This wall here, I know you can't see my hand here, but if you can imagine I'm touching the wall, I am just off camera. This wall is it's really cool. It's cool to put my hand against, and that's because it's that thick, and it's a south-facing wall. That's all the heat's coming on that side. So we're not getting the windows on that side. We're not getting too much heat through that window because the sun's sorry. We're not getting too much heat through that window. Because the sun's not there. Sorry, that's the north side, isn't it? What am I talking about? The south side? I'm getting mixed up here. That's the south side, right? And that's the north side, and that's always stays cool because the sun's not beating down on it, right? Get your Victorian engineering right. Anyway, they decided to make this house really cold so they could store meat in it. I think meat like little human beings like me. But yeah, the Festiniog Railway is indeed narrow gauge. I thought it was. I've been on the Festiniog Railway. It's lovely. Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah. Article by Francis Ryan v Aircon in Guardian today. I'll have to have a look at that. So when we used to design buildings around, say, in Southern Europe, before everything they decided everything had to be made of concrete and glass. Concrete being really, really bad for the environment. By the way, not only does it look disgusting and cheap and nasty and smell of piss, it's also really bad for the environment. But what they used to build, and if you go to any of the, you go to the old town in any old city, like in the south of Europe, like in Italy or in Spain, you'll find they'll have the courtyard set up where it's a building which is a square within the inside is a courtyard with greenery. There'll be little trees and shrubs and usually flowing water and stuff in there, and then you'll have the buildings as you go in, and they'll be really thick material that they built it out of, and you go in and there's no carpet. It's always like cool marble, or no, maybe not marble, but cool granite flooring. And the whole building is designed to stay cool in the height of winter, because in the height of summer. I'm sorry, I'm a bit sleep deprived. Because the way that the shading works, and it creates a cooling vortex. It pulls air in from the street, and because of the flowing water and because of the green trees and things, that mixes with the air, and it just creates this natural vortex of coolness. And then the buildings themselves, that they have very heavy shutters, so you can not just close the curtains, which doesn't do very much if the glass is getting up to 100 degrees C. You can close the shutters on the outside, and that keeps a lot of the heat out. And these buildings were built hundreds and hundreds of years ago with the idea of keeping extreme heat out, and we've just gone away from that. We build things now as cheap as humanly possible with the cheapest possible materials, and they can't. They're designed to fail anyway at the best of times, because obviously there's planned obsolescence. They want you to have to change your double glazing every 10 years because then they get a load more money. But just the way they're made is just that they can't cope with these extreme temperatures, and they know that. It's been a con for a long time. Is USA FIFA going to collapse? Oh, my word. I saw a story today. Thanks for asking that question, Greg. So I saw a story today. Oh, damn. Here we go. This is it. This is it. This is the story here. Sorry. Ugh. Why is that? Why is that not working? Hang on a sec. I will sort this out. Hang on. I'll sort this out for you. There you go. Look at that. Only 13,000 tickets sold for England warm-up in 69,000-seater stadium. I mean, this is England. I know they're playing New Zealand, but it's England playing in a warm-up for the World Cup. And it's just that they've sold what? It's not even a quarter of the tickets. They've not even sold a quarter of the tickets. They're going to be playing. They're going to be playing in front of 50,000 empty seats. 50,000 empty seats. There you go. That's what your greed gets you. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy. I asked a bus driver once why no aircon on a bus, unlike in Spain. He said not because he has to open doors so often. Presume he thought people in hot countries never let folk off. Yeah, that's a weird reason. They can totally have aircon on buses in the UK. It's just it's more expensive, and they want to maximise the profits. No, Michael Rod isn't PSM listed. Who's Michael Rod from Tomorrow's World? From Tomorrow's World. No, I'll add him. Michael Rod, Tomorrow's World. What are we saying? PSM. Okay. Back to COVID spectators in Japan. What? Mr. The new buses in Edinburgh are electric and have aircon. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I saw an interesting little clip of Andy Burnham yesterday, because he was talking about, doing door knocking around Makerfield. And he was saying the two things that come up most on the doorstep. One of them was about the paedophile gangs, and he addressed that head on. And the other thing was to do with the clean air zone. So if anyone who's living in Manchester, anyone who's been through Manchester in recent years, has seen those signs up everywhere where it says clean air zone pending or something, pending court decision or something like that, right? And it's quite interesting because Andy Burnham kind of addresses this head on, and he says, so what's happened here is essentially the was forced. I didn't know this, but Manchester was forced to have its own ULEZ by Boris Johnson, and it was Andy Burnham who was like pushing back against it, going, "This isn't necessary. This isn't necessary." Anyway, the reason why they were forced into it was because someone, obviously they'd done some testing on the air, and the air wasn't clean enough, right? But because of the B network and it running on electric buses, the air in Makerfield is now clean enough that they don't need a a clean air zone, and which kind of makes sense as well, because if you're driving a petrol car that's anything less than 25 years old, you know, it passes. Like the chances of it not passing are absolutely minimal. The difficulty really was with diesels, and even with diesels, it's anything past sort of what 13 years now. So you'd have to have a diesel that's more than 13 years old to fall foul of those emissions levels. And I just that people usually have a vehicle for about 10 years, and then they move on. In the World Cup, are you England? In the World Cup, are you England? Not mentioned it. Um, Not massive. I don't think I'm going to be watching very much of it. I might watch the Canadian games and the Mexican games, as in the games being held in Canada and games being held in Mexico. I really don't want to support the American one. I want this to be a massive failure. And that sounds like a terrible thing to say, but FIFA are evil, and the current people in charge of America are evil. I want it to fail. New Zealand playing Iran on my birthday. Oh, that's pretty cool. Anyway, so yeah, I just want to go through. I've got to wrap up soon because Cat needs a hand with something. But before I tap out, I just want to talk about the boring stuff that actually matters here. Climate discussions often talk about focus entirely on the temperature, but what the bigger issue is what that temperature actually does, and this isn't talked about half as much as I think it should be. Water supply. The Climate Change Committee has warned England could face daily water shortages by the mid-century, and that's not because the Britain has suddenly become a desert or nothing. It's just because hotter summers will put increasing pressure on the supply, and we haven't had any new reservoirs built since water was privatized by Thatcher. And then you've got the agriculture crops are adapted to grow in a certain temperature range, and excessive heat reduces the yields. Droughts affects harvesters, and that affect harvests, but that affects the price. So farmers face greater uncertainty than they already do in their job. And we were talking about railways buckling and roads softening, but also power stations systems facing higher demand. If we don't get new lines put in for our energy grid, we're going to be stuffed. Hospitals find it hard to operate, and the economic impacts are enormous down the line. Someone said the other week they worked out that just the cost of making Britain go net zero costs exactly the same as one oil shock, and we're living through an oil shock right now. We had one in 2022 when Putin invaded Ukraine. The data is unequivocal at this point. Heat waves are becoming more intense. They're becoming more frequent. The evidence, the data is overwhelming, and climate change is often framed as reducing emissions, but the point I'm trying to make is that that's just one part of it. We also need to look at our infrastructure. We need to see how homes are designed. We need to see how schools and hospitals, workplaces, maximum temperature limits, cooling requirements. Hospitals should have funding to adapt. Air conditioning is going to have to be retrofitted into places to allow people not just to live, but to not die in the next heat wave. And we're going to have to see a change on all building regulations, all infrastructure regulations. If you build a bridge, it's going to have to be built in a different type of concrete, that one that doesn't crack when it gets too hot, etc. And this isn't the hypothetical future things anymore. This is needed now. And the next few decades, the weather's going to fluctuate, and we're going to see some years being colder than ever before, hotter than ever before, wetter than ever before, drier than ever before. And as these extreme events become more and more common, we have to make decisions now on what our infrastructure is going to look like, and energy decisions, housing decisions, transport decisions, urban planning decisions. And the most remarkable thing about the heat wave this week isn't that it happened. I don't think that's remarkable at all. The remarkable thing is how closely reality is resembling the warnings that I've heard all my life. I remember watching an episode of Tomorrow's World where they encouraged you to turn the light off when you went in the room. And that was in the 80s because they were like climate change. And I think that for a lot of people, maybe older people, climate change has always been something distant, something abstract, something that the future generations will have to deal with. But instead, like Britain just experienced 35 degrees C temperatures in May, not in July. Not in the height of summer. In May, and according to the people who study this stuff for a living, this is just the beginning. And and I I just it breaks my heart that we are so far behind when we could be so far forward. We could be somewhere amazing right now, but the Fash keep winning, and we really need to get better at this. And I'll just leave you with one example of why I think that we need to really get our shit together when it comes to stopping people like Trump getting into power in the future. Nigel Farage wants to privatise the NHS. So imagine this, right? Imagine you are profoundly deaf and you go and you get yourself a cochlear implant, right? And there's only 3 companies in the world that make cochlear implants, and it costs like thousands and thousands of pounds. The reason why for adults it's only done in one ear is a cost thing, because that's how expensive they are. Okay. Now you have kids. If the kids are deaf, they have a cochlear implant, it will be in both ears because they do it for children. But for adults, you can only get it in one. You can get it done in one ear because it's a surgical procedure. You need to buy this quite expensive kit that goes with it, right? So imagine this: you get yourself a cochlear implant that's supposed to work for the rest of your life, and a cochlear implant works by replacing your cochlea, right? So if you had, say, a small amount of hearing still left, that a hearing aid could allow you to be able to, boost that bit of hearing, right? You lose that. You lose that entirely. So when your cochlear implant isn't turned on, when your hearing aid on that side isn't turned on, you cannot hear anything out of that ear at all without that. Okay, so you are completely dependent on the manufacturer of that product, whichever one you go with, and the fact that the NHS will continue servicing that product for the rest of your life. If Farage gets in, one of the first things he's going to do is privatise the NHS. And when he does that, everyone in this country who's got a cochlear implant is going to have to pay for their upgrades. When the bits out on the outside, the actual surgery doesn't need to be redone, but pretty much everything else needs to be renewed every 10 years, 15 years, whenever it is, whenever it runs out. And instead of it being free on the NHS, it'll cost you £20,000. And a lot of people won't have that. So you're going to have a lot of people who won't be able to upgrade replace the parts that they need for their cochlear implants if Farage gets in. That's just one example of some of the people who are going to suffer like you will not believe if Farage and that get in, because it's not going to. They're not just going to fuck over the people they've said they're going to fuck over, which is pretty much anyone who's not white, anyone who's an immigrant, anyone who's gay, anyone who's trans, anyone who a lefty, as they like to call us. But yeah, just think about that, and then extrapolate that over everyone who needs long-term medical support for chronic conditions. And you think about pensioners as well. If they go to a privatized system, like how is that going to work? Insurance-based medicine. Yeah, it's great if you can get the insurance and if they pay out. I was thinking about that when I did my attempt this week. There's a chance that Guinness World Records say no to me and say, you didn't do it right. You're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. Right, and I know that, that's fine. If I don't get the record, I don't get the record, whatever. Might try again in a few years' time. When it's a matter of life and death, right? When it's a matter of life and death, I don't have that option, right? I've got to get it done. Right? If I need some medical procedure done, I need to get it done, or I'll die. Okay, get it done. And all these Americans hoping that their medical insurance will cover it, and a lot of the time it doesn't. Why do you think everyone was cheering when Luigi did what he did? Might have done allegedly. What? Because they were like, these people kill every day. Because you don't have a choice. It's either get that operation or die, and then you've just got to hope that your insurance goes, yeah, okay, we'll cover that. Subscription hearing. Well, yeah, Dragon's Marine. That episode. I mean, a lot of episodes of Black Mirror really stay with me, but that one with Rasheen Jones and your man out of the IT crowd. That episode where to keep her alive, she had to have this subscription to the company, the medical company that supplied her with her brain implant. And like because they couldn't afford it, she kept on saying adverts out loud. She lost her job because she couldn't teach children and keep saying adverts. And yeah, that future is the future that Farage wants. That's the future, the fash bastard with his swastika tattoo and his, saying horrible things about Carol Vorderman. That's the future that he wants. A world of haves and have nothings. If Farage gets in, then he'll be the only person left in England because we'll all move out. Well, no, that wouldn't happen though, would it? At night, I mean, the rich will move out. The people who can move out will move out, but the rest of us won't. There's an article going around that suggestions GPs are pushing the government to allow them to start charging patients for appointments. I really couldn't disagree with that more. But it doesn't surprise me. I mean, doctors are, well, it was a bit hard for them to come on board with the whole NHS idea in the first place. Taught for 35 years, many primates in Loughborough worked in had aircon. Primates, sorry, not. Why did I say primates? Many primaries in the last borough I worked in had aircon in classrooms. Helped when needed. Some little buggers are hard work in adverse weather. Yeah. If Nigel does come PM in 2029, then he will put Palantir in his shadow cabinet. Of course he would. Farage has been saying he'll be PM for 45 plus years now, and UKIP was the only moment when it was possible, and he lost to Almori's pub landlord's persona. Well, yeah, but he did become an MP, and they are the most well-funded political party at the moment by a mile. When I was in secondary school in the late 90s, we used to have to wear trousers, long sleeve shirt, blazer, and tie no matter the temperature. It was all awful. Several of my peers passed out. Just mad, isn't it? Schools kids are like are primates like the rest of us. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'll just get on a boat and row the fuck out of here. I camouflage the boat too. Just paint it blue. My question for I'm going to go in a minute, but before I do, my question for people who make starships in the Star Trek universe, right? Yeah, your problem is that the Klingons have figured out cloaking technology, but you haven't, right? Listen, there you go. Right, listen, you can have this one on me. Paint your spaceship black, turn the lights out. Just saying. Chris, yes, we had the same cheeky bastards. I was not impressed. Close the golf clubs. Oh, well, yeah, the bloody golf course is still getting water when the rest of us are on a hosepipe ban. 2% of Britain's land is golf courses. 2%. Crazy, isn't it? What we need are more solar panels and more wind turbines. And they should do a thing where if someone complains about a wind turbine on a hill several miles from where they live, they should have to have a wind turbine in their back garden. That's the rule. Oh, and also, by the way, this isn't good news. I was going to show you what was on the covers of the papers because there's one in particular that I just want to point out to you. So just let me get this set up. Hang on a second. Need to get this set up. Boobadoo. There we go. Oh, why is that all the way over there? What is happening? Why did you move over there? Oh, I did not want you to do that. Okay. That's got a bit weird, isn't it? Oh, I see. It's because it's like that. Okay. Okay. So the story I wanted to pick up on is in the right place. The story I wanted to pick up on here, blah 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 blah, is this Flags Group founder charged with murder. He's arrested after one man dies in hospital and another is injured. A founder of Raise the Flag, this Gammony motherfucker here, group filling streets with England flags, has been charged with murder. Billy Allison, 36, faced court yesterday after Matthew O'Gara died following reports of two men being punched at a pub. And I don't know, but I think the other guy who founded the group, or maybe it was him as well, ran over someone who's trying to take down some of their flags in like Birmingham or somewhere. Ran them over in his van. I mean, anyone who is supporting these absolute scumbags, these people who are making our lives a misery, bringing down our house prices, and stifling inward investment into our areas. Absolute bloody scumbag. What's it called? Flags. There was I'm looking back on this story. Let me see. The Birmingham van hit and run. 30-year-old man was run over and suffered a broken leg requiring surgery. The clash occurred between local residents and members of an anti-migrant campaign, Raise the Colours, after residents attempted to take down flags that had been illegally placed on lampposts, and one of these scumbags was arrested at the arrest Tommy Robinson March Flags. Jesus Christ. 43 arrests after enormous £4.5 million police operation at Tommy Robinson's fucking march. £4.5 million spent on those fucking gobshites. Jesus Christ. 43 people arrested. There was I'm trying to see about this van arrest because I know that someone was arrested for that. I'm just trying to find out who it was. I'm sure someone's telling me in the chat here. In May, and May was 2 days after Bridge was okay. So Ryan Bridge has been arrested, and now the other fella who this Allison creep. Oh my god, seriously. So Billy Allison and Ryan Bridge both arrested for attacking people, one of whom is now being charged perhaps with murder. This is the kind of, when I do this thing about like, have a look at who's with you, who's on your side, who's like going, yeah, that's great, that is. Is that the one that exploded? No, that one's not exploding. Why is that not exploding? Show me the exploding one. Have a look who's behind you. Have a look who's all kind of happy to be with you, And if those people include people who like punch people to death in the pub or run them over with vans and break their legs for the crime of taking down your disgusting, horrible, tatty flags, then I think you're on the wrong side, mate. I think you picked the wrong bloody team. Look, there you go. Look at that exploding. Billions of dollars there exploding. It's all right. No one's living in poverty. It's all right. No one's too cold or too hot or too hungry. It's okay. There's no children who are dying of diarrhea. It's okay. We've solved the problem of malaria, and no one's dying of AIDS anymore. It's okay. You can just blow up rockets all day long. 50% of the land in the UK is owned by about 500 people. Yeah, yeah. Um, Graham, Stafford's Crown Court isn't that far from me, so I might sit in for the trial. Ooh. Pineapple to go with that gammon. I wouldn't be surprised if they turned around and said I was protecting my country. Hey, listen. I know I said that I was going to go to Liverpool for June the 20th to meet up with Aid and his patrons, and I said if anyone wants to come along, we'll sort something out. But what I'm thinking at the moment is, I feel a bit bad because I said yes to Aid, and then I found out that the Rejoin March is on that same day, and obviously it's going to be the 10th anniversary of Brexit, so I kind of feel, or the Brexit vote, the fraudulendum, so I feel like I should go, right? So what I'm thinking of doing is getting up nice and early, getting down to London in the morning. I might get the overnight bus if they're still doing a Flix bus now, because mega buses no more. But and then going to the march, leaving about 4 o'clock and getting down to Liverpool, getting the fast train to Liverpool if I can get a halfway decent price. And I'll hopefully be in Liverpool for like 6, 7 o'clock and then meet you in the pub at that time. So that's my provisional plan at the moment for June the 20th. So if you're in Liverpool or you're around Liverpool, let me know and I'll try and arrange something. 69 watching, better in private. Thanks, El. Okay, I think that's my cue to make like a tree and get out of here. But thank you very much for watching. Like I say, it's not just that we need to be looking at what the temperature is. We need to be looking at what we need to be doing infrastructure-wise in this country to deal with these high temperatures, which are not going to stop coming. That's the thing. It's not going to be like in the future, this isn't going to happen. It's just a one-off event. It's not a one-off event. It's going to happen with more and more increasing regularity, and we need to adapt our country to be able to cope with it. Okay, my friends, thank you so much. Thanks to everyone who's chipped in a little bit for the super chats. That's really kind of you. I really appreciate that. I might do a show tonight, but all things being equal, I feel like I've done a lot of streaming this week, and I don't want you getting sick of me. So I might leave it. I usually do a show in the morning, but considering I feel like I don't think I did, but I feel like I put on two stone this week when I'm doing me live stream and not getting any exercise. My feet swelled up like you wouldn't believe. I'm thinking of walking park run tomorrow. Building up to running it, but just getting outside and getting some fresh air. So if I decide to do that, there won't be a morning brew in the morning tomorrow. But I'll probably try and do something in the evening. We might have another crack at Monkey Island too, if you want. I don't know. But we'll see. So please do me a favour and give us a like before you go. Always like a like. And also, if you could subscribe to the channel, that'd be great. You're not subscribed, but if you are subscribed, hit the bell notification icon. I can't tell you if I'm definitely going to do a show tonight or not, or if there's going to be one tomorrow morning or not. Just hit the bell notification icon, and you should get a little buzz in your pocket when I'm about to go live. So yeah, you owe Kat and the girls some time, Graham. Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking, Martin. So I was thinking tonight I might just sort of have a little bit of a chill. But yeah, that's a good plan. Graham says this. So, which pub? It'll be the Jacaranda, but it might be the Jacaranda Baltic because Aid wants to go to a gig. There's like an all-day gig at the Jacaranda Baltic, so I might be meeting him there at like 7 o'clock. Just depending on what time the train gets get in. But yeah, if you're in London, if you're going to the Rejoin March, let me know. We'll try and meet up there. I'll probably try and be there from between like 11 till 4, and then I'll bugger off and get the train to Liverpool so I can put in an appearance at both things. I'm a bit like Spider-Man, where he's like given a diabolical choice whether he can save the people in the boxcar, or he can save his girlfriend, and he manages to save them both. Or like James Bond, where he can like catch the bad guy, or he can save the woman he loves, but he does both. I'm going to try and do that. Just do both. Just say, okay, well, I'm supposed to be at this thing, and I'm supposed to be at this thing. Is there a way? A little bit of a sort of insight into the way my brain works. It's like sure there's a solution to this problem. But yeah, hopefully I'll be able to go to both. So if you're going to be in London on June the 20th, or you're going to be in Liverpool, let me know and we'll try and sort something out. Okay, friends, thanks very much. It's been a long week for some, and I hope you've enjoyed your bumper morning brew this morning, because I've yacked on for 1 hour and 50 minutes, and yeah, I should probably rest my voice as well. That'll probably be a good idea. But yeah, thank you to everyone this week. You've been brilliant. People have jumped into the chat and kept me sane, and put up with my increasingly reedy tones as it went through the whole thing. I'm sure at the end I probably was hallucinating, but I felt like I was all there, except for one moment when I looked at my clock and I was convinced it was like midnight, and I looked at my clock, it was like 2:30, and I'm like, that's not right. And I just didn't know where like 2 hours went, and I was like, did I fall asleep? Did I just fall asleep? Diz, that place had bad memories for me, Diz. Oh no, where's that? A mate was beaten up after a night out there. He's disabled now, but not well enough to know it. Oh my God, where's that? Where was that? Where was that? The Jacaranda. Might meet you on the train. Which pub? Oh shit, I'm sorry. That happened in the Jack. Outside the Jack. Shit. I'm sorry, mate. That really sucks. The Baltic sending hugs. Pretty Kate Machine sending hugs to Martin. Yeah, mate, that's really shit. I'll have to talk about that when I see you at IRL. But yeah, Jacaranda. Bloody hell. Sorry, Martin. That's bloody awful. That's a bit shit. To put it mildly. Really sorry, man. With the one that Aid's going to is the Jacaranda in the Baltic Triangle, the Jacaranda Baltic. Not in there on his way home. Oh, yeah, but you still associate it, so that's a bit shit, isn't it? Ah, fuck. That's not on Martin. It's a bit shit. That's a bit shit. Anyway, right, I'm gonna have to get going. Got shit to do, and Kat needs to make a phone call today, and I need to be the person who repeats what the person says down the phone to her, because obviously she can't hear what they're saying, so I had to like repeat it. Did I ever tell you one time that we were arranging to get a sofa delivered, right, from a big like British company, and called up to make arrangements for what time they were gonna have, and the lad on the phone was being really arsey with me being on the phone call as well, saying I can only talk to the person who made the order, and I'm like, yeah, Kat's here. I'm just repeating what she says because she's deaf, and he's like, oh, so she's not really deaf then. Some people. Anyway, lots of love going out to Martin. Yeah, that's a bit shit, mate. I'm sorry. I do feel like I'm lucky in a way that I'm not ran into any bother on the way home from town. It's just, but it's just chances, isn't it? It's just, yeah, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But yeah, there are some fucking aggro heads out there who are like, oh, I'm gonna go out and have a fight, and you're like, what the hell? But yeah, yeah. Pretty Kate Machine saying, for fuck's sake, I know. She's not really deaf. I have like an imagination where I said, I didn't do this, but I can imagine him saying, like, he says you're not really deaf, Kat, and Kat just turned around, well, can you tell him to go fuck himself to death? She would never say something like that, but I would. But yeah, deaf people can talk. Well, it's because she could understand what I was saying because she was reading my lips. Whatever. Okay, so listen, what was this? Ryan saying it's going pretty badly for Raise the Flags. I'm happy that it looks like it's time up for these plonkers. Yeah, rip those flags out. I mean, how bad does it look now for Robert Jenrick, who was photographed supporting their little horrorness? Making people feel unwelcome, making me feel unwelcome. I'm not even an immigrant, and I feel unwelcome around here because of all the fucking flags. But yeah. Anyway, Thank you very much for watching. I will actually sign off now. Terrible at this, aren't I? I'm like, you hang up. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. But listen, take care, and I'll be around this weekend, I'm sure. So please hit that bell notification icon, and we can meet up and on. Who knows when? Who knows how? But definitely on this channel, Hughes of the World. So until next time, I'll say thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to give us a like. And hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.